Imagine waking up drenched in your own sweat, your bones aching like they've been shattered, your skin crawling with insect sand. You haven't even opened your eyes yet. Welcome to the medieval nightmare you wouldn't survive a single day, and forget the fairy tales. Forget the polished knights and glittering castles. The real Middle Ages was a raw, unfiltered horror show where survival wasn't a right, it was a privilege. And tonight, you're the unlucky guest dropped into that world without a warning. It's 1325. You blink awake, not in your bed, but on a half-rotted straw mattress crawling with lice and fleas. Your blanket is a stinking slab of wool that smells like goat and old vomit because it probably was wrapped around both. The hay beneath you? It was a barn floor last week. It's your mattress. No pillow, no linen, just filth. Your joints crack as you sit up, each sound echoing like a scream through your body. You're 22 years old, but in this world, that's already middle-aged. Your knees grind like rusted gears, your back spasms from sleeping in twisted agony. Stand up barefoot and instantly regret it. The floor is either damp from rain that seeped through the thatched roof or crusted with something unidentifiable. Spoiler alert, it's definitely chicken droppings. There's no bedroom. No privacy. It's just you, your family, a few goats, and the rats nesting in the corners of your single-room wooden hovel. The air reeks a nauseating cocktail of sour beer, sweat, mildew, and goat urine. And the best part? That's considered normal. You think you've had bad mornings? This one will make you miss food poisoning. The medieval alarm clock. It's a bone-rattling church bell screaming from a tower that you have to respond to or risk being branded lazy. Or worse, a heretic. You haven't eaten. You haven't bathed. You haven't even relieved yourself. Yeah, you're just relieving yourself. Here's where things get particularly medieval. Your bathroom is a wooden bucket out back. It's already full from your uncle's late-night diarrhea episode. Turn-up's gone wrong. No toilet, no paper, no seat, no dignity. You crouch over the stench, barely holding your breath, then chuck the waste into the street below. Yep, into the street. And you're expected to shout "Gardes low" before raining human filth onto the cobblestones. Still think you'd survive without a bidet and flush. You wouldn't last until breakfast. But hey, maybe you're lucky enough to live in a city with a public latrine. In that case, congratulations, you get to sit shoulder-to-shoulder with total strangers while your insides make noises that would terrify a demon. No walls, no doors. Just open pits and the ever-present aroma of decaying humanity. You might even make eye contact. Don't worry, they're not judging. Everyone stinks. Toilet paper? Not invented. People use straw, moss, or if they're splurging a scrap of old wool. Some don't wipe at all. And guess what? That hand they're offering you? Yeah, maybe don't shake it. Even in castles, the bathroom is a hole in the wall that dumps straight into the moat. But here's the plot twist. Attackers often climb in through that same hole. Imagine dying not from battle, but because someone stormed your castle through your poop chute. Whether peasant or noble, rich or poor, every trip to the toilet is a gamble of shame, disease, or straight-up death. It's public. It's cold. It's disgusting. And you're still not done with your morning. Think you're tough? Think again. The modern world has made you soft, pampered by technology, insulated by comfort, protected by laws. But what if just for one day you were hurled back in time? No phones, no hospitals, no justice? Where your cries for mercy would echo into silence, because mercy was a luxury no one could afford. You wouldn't last an hour. And by nightfall, you'd be begging for death. Just raw survival in a world built on blood and fear. The stench is suffocating rotting teeth, unwashed flesh, the iron temps of blood nearby. This isn't a dream, it's your new reality. You crawl out into a dirt alley, your ribs poking through from hunger already. We're re-greeted by the sight of a child whipping a rat with a stick, because that rat is dinner tonight. Welcome to the medieval era, where a single misstep could cost you your tongue or worse. One wrong word, one suspicion, and they'll brand you a heretic. A daughter might be married off at age 12 to a man 4 times her age, traded like cattle for land or gold. Ow. You'll fight in wars you don't understand, for kings you'll never meet. And if you survive, it won't be with glory. It'll be with scars, trauma, and the constant nightmare of steel slicing flesh. Refuse, and you're beaten. Complain, and you're shunned or worse. Your punishment. Public burning, your skin bubbling, while the villagers cheer. Hope it's not the packs. Hope it's not anything, because even the best healers just wave herbs and chant spells. You either recover by miracle or die in agony, body bloated, eyes glassy, forgotten. Your rights. What rights? One mistake, and you're gone. Still believe your strength, your street smarts, your Instagram mindset could handle it. Wake up. You wouldn't last an hour. This world doesn't tolerate weakness. It devours it. It's trampled, tortured, executed, enslaved. There's no modern police, no social media, no rescue. You are alone, and no one cares about your pain. You're born poor, you die poor. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you don't. But in this world, luck often runs out fast. No, it's thick with chimney smoke, dung, and decay. Death has a scent, and it clings to every breath you take. You don't notice it after a while because your senses have surrendered to the filth. Imagine waking up not in a cozy bed, but on a lice-infested straw, mat soaked with the sweat of dozens before you. Not sleek, not clean. A thief might lose his hand, even if all he stole was a loaf of bread. And if you scream, too bad. The crowd's here for the show. They clap as your blood spills on the stones. Sometimes it's meat, crawling with worms. Sometimes it's nothing at all. Starvation isn't rare, it's expected. Romance, fairy tales laughable. Most marriages are arranged, most lovers are punished. And if you're caught in adultery, get ready for public humiliation or death by stoning. Passion has a price here. Just a tattered woolen sack that scratches your skin raw. You're already freezing, even though it's summer? I mean steel smashing skulls, arrows ripping through flesh. Friends dying in your arms while you scream into the chaos and the only victory is staying alive. Winter, don't ask. Most people don't survive their first medieval winter. There's no breakfast, no shower, no privacy. Drink it and you're likely to vomit your guts out in hours. If not, diarrhea will empty your body till you're too weak to stand. There are no doctors here, just prayers and a grave waiting. Your clothes? Try brushing your teeth. Oh, wait, there's no toothbrush and the local water. It's contaminated with sewage. Walking the street, better keep your head down. A knight on horseback won't hesitate to trample you if you're in his way. And if you so much as look at a noble's wife, you'll be whipped bloody or hanged as a warning. Hygiene is a myth. You'll share a wooden toilet with 20 others. A hole in the floor crawling with maggots and reeking of every disease imaginable. One scratch, one infected wound, and your arm is black by morning. You'll scream as they saw it off. No anesthesia, just leather in your mouth and the priest praying over you. Think you're safe in the church. Think again. Religion rules with fire and fear. Women, you're not a queen here. You're property. Men, you're nothing until you prove your worth. It means battle, bloodshed, and blind loyalty. Crime isn't judged in courts. It's punished in streets. Ever get sick? Hope it's not the plague. Food is a gamble. Sometimes it's stale barley bread so hard it cracks your teeth. Love, you think the air is fresh? Still think you'd survive? What about war? Not digital war? Not cyber war? Your voice means nothing. There is no second chance. So, still think you'd last a day in the Middle Ages? You think breakfast is comforting? In the Middle Ages, it's not. A meal's a test of what your stomach can survive without rebelling. And spoiler, it often fails. After surviving the humiliation of medieval toileting, you stagger back inside, hungry and nauseous. You hope for something warm, hearty, maybe even a little indulgent. But this isn't your cozy modern kitchen. This is a waking nightmare where breakfast is more of a punishment than a pleasure. You're handed a wooden bowl. Inside pottage, a thick gloppy sludge that looks like it's already been digested once. It's made of barley turnips, maybe a dried bean or two if you're lucky. The pot it came from hasn't been cleaned in weeks. New ingredients are just dumped on top of the old, forming an ancient stew that smells like a damp cellar and tastes worse. 8. It's less cooked food and more edible compost. Next to it a hunk of bread so dry and dense you could use it to fend off wolves. It's not made from wheat too expensive, but from coarse rye, sawdust, or sometimes ground acorns. You don't bite it. You gnaw at it like a starving rodent, hoping not to break a tooth in the process. Mini hook. This isn't a meal. It's a medieval survival challenge served in a splintered bowl. It's for something to drink? No fresh juice? No warm tea? It's not even clean water. Now that's because every stream, well, or puddle is teeming with microscopic death bacteria, parasites, rot. So you chug beer. Weak, warm, stale beer. At 6 a.m., even toddlers drink it because, believe it or not, it's safer than the water. Don't get excited. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you full. It just numbs you slightly before you're thrust back into the grinding misery of the day. Meat, cheese? Forget it. Unless it's a religious holiday or your nobility, those are rare dreams. Your meals are gritty, joyless rituals, a grim necessity to keep your body just barely running. Fruit, if it's even in season, is already half frotted or turning into cheap wine and spices. A pinch of pepper costs more than your monthly income. Salt is kept locked up like treasure. Mini hook. You're not eating for energy. You're eating to not pass out in a field. After your depressing excuse for nourishment, it's time to get dressed. Don't imagine closets. There's no such thing as a wardrobe change. You have one outfit. One. A tunic made of rough wool, stained from months, sometimes years of sweat, dirt, and bodily fluids. It's stiff from grime, heavy with moisture, and smells like a swamp that's been used as a toilet by a family of pigs. Underwear optional, usually non-existent. Soap, a fantasy. Your tunic is never washed properly, because cleaning it requires boiling water, ashes, hours of labor, and a miracle. Instead, it soaks in the same bacteria that's eating away at your skin. If you're lucky, you have shoes. But they're thin slabs of untreated leather with about as much protection as soggy paper. Most people walk barefoot through mud, dung, sharp rocks, and disease puddles where infection and parasites thrive. Mini hook. Your skin doesn't feel like skin anymore. It's a war zone, live with lice, fleas, and regret. Our body is a breeding ground for insects. Bedbugs crawl freely across your arms. Lice live in your scalp and eyebrows. Fleas nibble on you as you sleep. Everyone around you is scratching, digging, bleeding, and pretending this is just how life works. You'll use a wooden spoon to itch your back while chatting with the priest. No one bats an eye. You have a rash. Sucks to be you. Could be scabies, or ringworm, or something worse. But there's no doctor, no diagnosis, just the slow, maddening itch of untreated disease. Your skin is red, raw, and flaking. Your scalp is so inflamed it feels like it's on fire. Every time you rub it, the bites weep with infection. You don't heal. And if you're lucky, the next 6 months will just be miserable, not fatal. Think the torment ends at sunrise. Think again as the bells toll for morning mass. The villagers crawl out of their huts like ghosts in slow motion. Their faces are hollow, skin pale from years of malnutrition. The only color comes from the crusted wounds, open sores, and bruises worn like badges of suffering. Here, pain is part of your morning routine. Laziness is equated with sin, and sin is punished mercilessly. You will be mocked, cursed, even beaten by your own kin if you dare show weakness. In this world, if you don't suffer for survival, you're seen as worthless. The labor begins without a moment's rest. If a storm floods the fields, they accuse a child of witchcraft. And once the whispers start, there's no way to stop the mob. You'll be dragged from your home, barefoot and bleeding, to face trial without proof, without mercy, without hope. You're not lifting weights for fitness. You're hauling buckets of freezing water, chopping firewood with a rusted blade, and digging in solid earth with your bare hands. If you're accused, you must prove innocence through ordeals walking on fire, drowning in rivers, or bleeding into boiling oil. If you survive, you're innocent. But most don't. Scarred for life. body and soul. Love without permission. It's adultery. But if you're unlucky, you're captured. They're dragged like trophies, stripped of dignity, of safety, of humanity. Their pain is currency. Their silence is demanded. And when their screams fade, they are tossed aside like ruined dolls. And then comes the worst. Torture for information, mutilation for fun, or slavery for life. Corpses are tossed into mass graves. No names, no mourning. Children dig the holes, too used to death to cry. The earth groans under the weight of forgotten souls. This land is soaked with sorrow. Their dogs eat better than your children. Their shoes are worth more than your life, if you dare approach them. The past was cruel, merciless, ugly beyond imagination. Would your strength hold when your dignity is stripped, your skin flayed, your voice silenced? The truth is, you wouldn't last a day. You wouldn't last an hour. This wasn't life, it was slow grinding death, and now you've seen it. You'll never forget it. This wasn't some fantasy novelette. It was a nightmare made real. One that millions lived, suffered, and died through without ever knowing comfort. You're beaten by guards before your feet touch the steps. And no, nobody is coming to save you, not your king, not your God, not your family. And adultery means disfigurement. For a woman, it might mean losing her nose. For a man, his ears or eyes. You don't flirt here, you risk your life. It's torture, hours, sometimes days, with your hands and head trapped in wood, unable to move, piss, or eat. Only rats, fever, and fear. Your skin breaks out in black boils. You bleed from your eyes. You are locked in your home to rot while your neighbors pray you don't infect them. Simple cut on your hand festers. Infection spreads. Your fingers go black. Your flesh dies. The village healer mumbles a prayer and rubs mold on your skin. When that fails, they grab the saw. A horn blasts and you are dragged to the battlefield with no armor, no training, and a wooden spear in your shaking hands. The enemy charges. Arrows fly. Your friends drop like sacks of meat. You slip on the blood of your brothers. Your ears ring with screams that never leave your memory. Speak too softly, and you're hiding something. Speak out of turn, and you're a threat. One wrong opinion, one misunderstood sentence. You're chained to a post. Your tongue nailed to wood as a warning to others. You scream as wood tears through bone and there's no stopping the blood. Kids spit in your face. Strangers throw mud and rotten meat. You pray for rain not to cool you, but to wash away the stink of shame. And if you collapse from exhaustion, no sympathy, no break. Books are chained to churches, guarded by priests, written in Latin. Ignorance is enforced, celebrated even. Knowledge here is power, and power belongs only to those born into it. Women are judged for their wombs. Men are judged for their muscles. Children are judged by the strength of their hands. If you can't contribute, you are discarded like trash or worse, branded as cursed. And the cursed. They're often tied to posts, doused in oil, and set ablaze. There's no escape, no clean water to quench your thirst. And still, your master glares at you like you're a dog. One wrong move, one slow moment, and you're thrown into the stocks, mocked by laughing villagers while flies feast on your blood. The overseer's whip cracks like thunder, tearing flesh from your back until you get up or die where you fall. Not here. Rest is a crime if you're poor. Midday, the sun isn't your friend. It scorches your neck as you work, blistering your skin while the stench of manure, rot, and burning hides fills your lungs. And yes, the stocks, that charming medieval punishment you see in fairy tales, ever feel judged? Here, judgment is constant. The people aren't kind. They're paranoid. Superstition rules their minds. If a cow dies, they blame the widow. Trial, a joke. The justice system is designed to break you. Even if you obey every rule, life can betray you. Love doesn't bloom here, it wilts. You'll be told who to marry. Maybe a stranger, maybe someone cruel. Want to express yourself? Think again. Words are dangerous, speak too loudly, and you're arrogant. Education is a weapon you're not allowed to wield. Reading, forbidden for the poor. War isn't a noble adventure, it's an order. The battlefield doesn't end with death. If you're lucky, you're only injured. Women captured in war face a fate worse than death. Feasts, luxury, only for the elite. While you scrape mold from stale bread, The nobility dines on roast swan, sipping from goblets lined with gold. Sickness doesn't ask permission. It arrives without warning. And there are no hospitals, no ventilators, no medicine. Burials aren't peaceful. They're rushed. You thought history was glorious. You thought the past was noble. You were wrong. So tell me again, would you truly survive the medieval world? You think you're having a rough day? Try surviving just one medieval sunset. Your spine is screaming, your stomach's gnawing itself from the inside, and you're sleeping beside a rat named Dinner. But here's the real horror. The worst part is yet to come. Because in the Middle Ages, the scariest thing wasn't death. It was everything leading up to it. You've already braved the lice, the plagues, the pitch-black nights filled with cries of pain and fear. But the Middle Ages wasn't done tormenting you yet, because here comes the one guarantee of medieval life. Death. It's unclean, unjust, and usually early. Live past 40, you're practically a unicorn. People whisper the old one like you're a wizard or a curse, but don't celebrate yet, because getting old in this era isn't a reward, it's a punishment. A daily battle with infected toes, decaying teeth, and a back so broken it feels like someone used you as a medieval bench. Nearly half of all children didn't make it past their 5th birthday. Imagine that. You're born into a nightmare, and most never even learn to walk before disease, hunger, or a harsh winter takes them out. No second chances, no miracle medicines, just silent graves and shallow prayers. If you're lucky, and I mean lottery-winning lucky, you survive childhood. But that's when the real suffering begins. You don't grow into adulthood. You collapse into it. Your body begins breaking by your early 20s, knees grinding, teeth rotting, breath reeking like moldy bread soaked in old beer. And for women, the grim odds double. Because childbirth isn't a miracle. It's a coin flip with the devil. No doctors, no anesthesia, no sterile anything. Just you, a splintered bed, and a prayer that you or the baby, preferably both, bleed out before sunrise. One sneeze in the wrong crowd could wipe out your entire village. That wasn't just paranoia. That was daily life. Because in the Middle Ages, even a cough could be a death sentence. Men weren't safe either. Work-related deaths were the norm, and that included things like stepping on a rusty nail, getting kicked by a sick ox, or being mugged by a tax collector on the way to market. You didn't just fear raiders or war. You feared walking outside. And what about plagues? Forget the Black Death as a single event. It came in waves, and each one was worse than the last. Cities turned into cemeteries overnight. Rats were everywhere, but they weren't the scariest thing. It was you. Your own body, turning against you. Sweating, vomiting, bleeding out while people fled from you like a demon. No funeral, no candles. No names carved into wood. Just a pit, some dirt, and the hope you didn't infect half the town. But here's the final blow. The cruelest trick of all. Even if you did everything right, even if you prayed, worked, obeyed your Lord, your church, your king, you still died forgotten. No legacy, no monument, just silence. And just when you thought the nightmare was over, the priest leaned in and whispered, hell might still be waiting. So next time you're sipping your oat milk latte, scrolling through TikTok, wrapped in a fluffy blanket, remember this. You didn't survive the Middle Ages, someone else did. So you wouldn't have to. You think you've seen darkness? Wait until the night truly falls. When the last ember dies in the hearth, and the blackness wraps around your hovel like a suffocating shroud. Rats crawl across your feet as you try to sleep. Something brushes your face. You're unsure if it's a bug, a bat, or something worse. But you don't swat it. You don't move, because moving makes noise, and noise attracts. Them. You're not just afraid of wild animals or thieves anymore. When bandits come or worse, soldiers gone rogue have no defense. They kick down your home like it's paper. When children go missing, women disappear. Men return home with glassy eyes and wounds they refuse to explain. And the church says it's the devil's work. Maybe it's a rebellious farmer. Maybe someone simply spoke out of turn. Doesn't matter. Next time it could be you. And all it takes is one rumor, one lie. One jealous neighbor whispering, he cursed the priest. And suddenly, you're the one in chains. The crowd gathers and you are forced to watch as the blade falls. Nobles take what they want. Priests accuse you of seducing men with witchcraft. Jealous wives mark your face with boiling water. Your body becomes a battleground, and no one will fight for you. The wheel snaps bones like brittle sticks. Crow lands on a roof, someone's about to die. Child is born with a markwitch, a sudden fever curse. Try explaining science to a priest who sees demons in thunder. Try defending your innocence while tied to a pole, watching the pyre being built beneath your feet. If you punch the man who abuses your sister, if you steal to feed your child, you're hunted like a beast, labeled an outlaw. And once that label sticks, it never leaves. You're no longer human. You're prey. Truth has no power here. Fear does. The unexplainable becomes death sentence. Reason doesn't exist here, and those who question, they vanish. No, you wouldn't last a heartbeat in this nightmare. The medieval world doesn't forgive, it doesn't forget, it devours, and you'd be just another whisper, another body, another nameless tragedy lost to time. Violence waits around every corner. No safe place, no quiet moment. Even sleep offers no relief, brings nightmares drawn from real life. Their bodies are left as warnings. Crows peck out eyes. Children are told. This is what happens when you disobey. Fear wins again, or burn, in the crowd. They roar with laughter. They bet on how long you'll scream. Humanity is gone here. This is blood sport, wearing a holy mask. As blood spurts, like a fountain, as the head rolls, a face, frozen in horror forever, and in those hellholes there's no food, no light, just the moans of the infected and the stench of death cooking in the heat. But deep down everyone knows, it's a man who is the real monster. And when the baby is finally pulled free, it's not joy that follows, its dread. Because if the child doesn't cry, it might be buried before the next breath. You don't fight, you beg, you plead. You offer everything you have, your food, your clothes, your children. Sometimes they take it. Sometimes they take more. You're afraid of the shadows, of what they whisper, of what they take. And when screams pierce the night, you don't run toward them. You hide. Because in this world, nobody who screams survives. They simply dig another hole behind the church and move on. Mothers whisper names that will never be remembered. Fathers carve wooden crosses with trembling hands. And over time, the graveyard grows faster than the village. Candles are a luxury. Torches are rare in the dark. It is not just absence of light, it's a living thing. There are no locks on your door, just a wooden plank. The night is a predator. It doesn't hunt like a lion, it stalks like a curse. The sounds of night aren't peaceful. They're filled with grinding teeth, distant crying, the howls of wolves growing closer. You lie awake, clutching a rusted knife you barely know how to use, praying you don't hear footsteps near your window. Because once you do, it's already too late. And what if you're caught outside at night? Forget help. The village gate is closed. No one will open it, not even for a dying child. You're on your own in the forest, where the trees don't offer shelter, they offer burial. Where you can't tell which snapping branch is a beast or something far, far worse. No stars, no comfort, just endless cold. You curl against a stone wall, frost biting your skin, limbs stiffening, breath like smoke in the moonlight. Sleep is dangerous here. Sleep means death. But exhaustion is stronger than fear. And when your eyes close, part of you knows you may never open them again. And yet, for the lucky who survive the night, morning doesn't bring peace. It brings the punishment block. Another execution. Maybe it's a thief. Children cheer. Old women whisper prayers. But you can't look away, because you realize torture is not just a punishment, it's entertainment. The rack stretches men until joints burst. The Iron Maiden closes like a cruel embrace. The body doesn't belong to you anymore. If you're sick, the town decides whether you're worth saving or quarantining in a plague house with the other dying souls. And what if you're a woman with beauty? That's not a blessing, it's a curse. It draws attention. It's dangerous, cruel attention. Even the concept of birth is soaked in fear. A woman screams for hours, alone or surrounded by untrained hands. No anesthesia, no C-section, no sterilization. Infant death is so common, no one cries for long. Superstition poisons everything. Think you'd be smart enough to survive? Try reasoning with a mob. Every moment is soaked in anxiety. Hunger gnaws at your gut. Disease lurks in every cough. And what happens if you snap? If you scream at the injustice? Outlaws are dragged back through the mud, beaten until bones break, strung from trees with guts spilling onto the ground. So tell me again, how long would you survive? A day? A week? You think you're having a rough day? Try surviving just one medieval sunset. Your spine is screaming, your stomach's gnawing itself from the inside, and you're sleeping beside a rat named Dinner. But here's the real horror. The worst part is yet to come. Because in the Middle Ages, the scariest thing wasn't death. It was everything leading up to it. You've already braved the lice, the plagues, the pitch-black nights filled with cries of pain and fear. But the Middle Ages wasn't done tormenting you yet, because here comes the one guarantee of medieval life. Death. It's unclean, unjust, and usually early. Live past 40, you're practically a unicorn. People whisper the old one like you're a wizard or a curse, but don't celebrate yet, because getting old in this era isn't a reward, it's a punishment. A daily battle with infected toes, decaying teeth, and a back so broken it feels like someone used you as a medieval bench. Nearly half of all children didn't make it past their 5th birthday. Imagine that. You're born into a nightmare, and most never even learn to walk before disease, hunger, or a harsh winter takes them out. No second chances. No miracle medicines, just silent graves and shallow prayers. If you're lucky, and I mean lottery-winning lucky, you survive childhood. But that's when the real suffering begins. You don't grow into adulthood. You collapse into it. Your body begins breaking by your early 20s, knees grinding, teeth rotting, breath reeking like moldy bread soaked in old beer. And for women, the grim odds double. Because childbirth isn't a miracle. It's a coin flip with the devil. No doctors, no anesthesia, no sterile anything. Just you, a splintered bed, and a prayer that you or the baby, preferably both, bleed out before sunrise. One sneeze in the wrong crowd could wipe out your entire village. That wasn't just paranoia, that was daily life. Because in the Middle Ages, even a cough could be a death sentence. Men weren't safe either. Work-related deaths were the norm. And that included things like stepping on a rusty nail, getting kicked by a sick ox, or being mugged by a tax collector on the way to market. You didn't just fear raiders or war, you feared walking outside. And what about plagues? Forget the Black Death as a single event. It came in waves, and each one was worse than the last. Cities turned into cemeteries overnight. Rats were everywhere, but they weren't the scariest thing. It was you. Your own body, turning against you, sweating, vomiting, bleeding out while people fled from you like a demon. No funeral, no candles. No names carved into wood. Just a pit, some dirt, and the hope you didn't infect half the town. But here's the final blow. The cruelest trick of all. Even if you did everything right, even if you prayed, worked, obeyed your Lord, your church, your king, you still died forgotten. No legacy, no monument, just silence. And just when you thought the nightmare was over, the priest leaned in and whispered, hell might still be waiting. So next time you're sipping your oat milk latte, scrolling through TikTok, wrapped in a fluffy blanket, remember this. You didn't survive the Middle Ages, someone else did. So you wouldn't have to. So, you've made it this far? Still breathing? Still believing you could somehow adapt, endure, survive? Delusion is dangerous here. Because the longer you live in this era, the more it breaks you. Not with one blow, but through 1,000 subtle cuts. Your stomach emptier than ever. But worse than the hunger is the hopelessness. That gnawing void in your chest whispering, this is your life now. And it will never get better. Laughter. It only happens when someone else is suffering. Misery binds them. Fear is their shared language. And you're now one of them. Another broken shadow drifting through the dirt. Hear voices. Is that a cry from the forest? Or just wind? You wake up each day not to live, but to avoid punishment. You eat not for joy, but to avoid collapsing. You smile only to survive another inspection, another guard, another cruel noble's passing gaze. You forget days, faces, even your own name. And that's when the real horror begins. See a boy scream as a sword splits his face open. You wander from village to village, mistaken for a vagrant, a witch, a thief. For purpose, for something, anything that doesn't hurt. You remember stories of heaven, of kings and gods, of freedom. He looks at you with pity, not fear. You beg for a word, a blessing, a reason, and for the first time you understand. This world was never meant to be survived. It was meant to break you, to crush your spirit. Not because you're weak, but because even the strongest eventually shatter. You lie down, watching sunlight drip through shattered stone. The air grows colder. Your heartbeat slows. And in that final moment, you don't see angels. You see everyone you lost, everyone you failed, everyone you once were. And to turn your final breath into a whisper, no one hears. And all he says is, "This is what life always was. You just never knew it." Then he dies. But deep inside, a darker voice tells you the truth. Those were always lies. No one offers help. No one even offers words. You are invisible. A ghost in your own lifetime, unseen, unwanted, unforgiven. You see a pregnant woman cut down for standing in the wrong place. Just brutality, darkness, and silence. You wouldn't last a day, because it wasn't built for people like you. It wasn't built for humans at all. It was built to consume them. And now, it has consumed you too. See your village? Your entire life burned to ash, while drunk soldiers piss on the corpses. When you realize you're losing yourself, you've watched people beg, scream, and die. You walk through the smoldering ruins with hands that tremble and eyes that refuse to close. Because behind every blink is a memory you can't erase, not to death but to the endless nightmare of simply existing. And by the time you realize you're drowning, you're already at the bottom, gasping for a mercy that never comes. A number, a replaceable gear in a machine built on blood. When you fall, someone else takes your place. And within days, your name fades from memory like mist. That's your legacy. Nothingness. You don't need words in a world where silence is safer. You keep your head down. You avoid eye contact. You've learned that one wrong stare can get you beaten. The fields become graveyards. The rivers run red with the blood of the innocent. And no one is spared, not the elderly, not the newborn, not the devout. One misunderstood joke can get you whipped in front of the whole village, while they laugh and cheer like wolves. People lock their own family members in basements and bolt the doors. Compassion dies faster than the infected. Maybe it's your friend strung up as a traitor for questioning attacks, but it happens. And when it does, the pain is so deep you forget how to cry. Your body is no longer your own. Every joint aches from endless labor, your skin cracked from wind and rot. No justice, no recovery. You bury the ones you love in shallow graves and walk away like it meant nothing. 'Cause grieving too loudly can make you a target, and grief itself. It's a luxury for the powerful, not for peasants drowning in their own despair. You once had a voice, now you barely speak. Can't have ambition. You can't imagine escape, 'cause there's nowhere to run. Every path leads to more chains. Every prayer bounces off stone walls. Even the sky looks down at you with contempt. The people around you aren't living there, surviving in slow motion. Their faces are blank. Smiles are rare. Becomes a disease here. If you're seen dreaming too much, the world punishes you harder. And when tragedy strikes, it doesn't ask for permission. Maybe it's your child coughing blood. Maybe it's your sister, dragged away in the night. There are no therapists. Madness becomes your companion. You start to see things. There is no identity here. You're not special. You're not chosen. You're just a body. And yet, you're forced to keep going. It's not out of courage, out of instinct. And then the war arrives. You thought things were bad before? Watch what happens when kingdoms clash. Sky turns black with smoke. You're forced to fight, given a rusted blade and pushed to the front. And when the battle ends, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like trauma that will never leave you. You've killed. And still, the plague returns. As if war wasn't enough. Bodies stack in streets. Priests scream for repentance. Fires burn through towns to cleanse the rot. In one night, you lose everything. Your home, your family, your name, and then comes the hunger again. Now it's more than physical. You hunger for meaning. Eventually, you reach a crumbling monastery. You crawl inside, desperate. Inside is a scribe, dying of fever. You sit there, in silence, surrounded by dust and bone. And so, you stop fighting. That's the truth of medieval life. No fantasy, no heroism, oh grand destiny.